It wouldn't be a coin show on ABC if we didn't get to talk Morgan dollars, right? We got to do that almost every hour. And it's just a great conversation because there are so many choices in conversation. Well, tonight we're going for uncirculated price point. We're going for rarity that just can't be touched. So that only means two possibilities in my head, but I'm a numbers geek. That's the 1890 and the 1891 Philadelphias. And here they come. Uncirculated style, though. That's the difference. My competition sells circulated coins. Coins that were out there and used 130 years ago for more money than we're selling you gorgeous unks tonight. So the reason why I reference the rarity index is because all of these older Morgan dollars have mintage figures, right? Like every coin does. The problem with the mintage figures today is the events over the last 100+ years. The biggest of the events happened in 1918. Senator Pittman, who was a person that was looking at the entrance to World War at that time, right? World War I. Woodrow Wilson, we were neutral at that time as a federal government. But we saw one of our kindred spirits in the English having a problem with their silver certificate redemption in India. The Germans were there, they were pushing, turn all your money in, they can't support it, so you better let us support you, kind of a thing, right? So the US government put together something called the Pittman Act, and it melted 60% of all the Morgan dollars ever. That was from 1878 to 1904, the 27 years it was out. The unfortunate thing is we didn't keep records as to which coins were which. And we couldn't give them the Morgan dollar. Because if we gave them the Morgan dollar and they went to the bank in India and they gave them a US silver dollar, it means that we actually are supporting the English and the other allies in the war. So they melted them down. That's where the 1921 Morgan came from. Remaking Morgans from the silver left over. So the story of how the flow happened and what happened to the numbers is why this one's so special. If you look at NGC as just one of the grading services and what they have seen in the last 40 years, here are the crazy numbers. 1890, 40 years ago. Now the mintage on this coin was 16.8 million. But, again, 60%, we don't know which ones. Well, today we do. 24,653 are known. All grades. 1891, it's even scarier. It's a rarer coin, only 8,600,000 struck, but it's only 10,001 as of today. Now, that only means what? Something by a comparison. If you want to look at the comparisons, here are some crazy thoughts overall. You have the 1887 only a couple of years earlier with 221,000. You have the 1886 a year earlier at 156,000. You have the 1885 a year earlier at over 100,000. By the way, if you were watching our TV show last week, those same coins sold for the same amount of money. These are 130-year-old vintage Morgan dollars. Not the remakes or medallions that many put out when all the fun stuff happened in 2021. These are the originals. So if you use this analogy, it might make it a little easier to understand why the 85 and the 86 and the 87 can have more coins surviving today than the others. If you build a barn or a vault in 1878 when the Morgan Dollar series started, and it was big, we knew it was going to last 27 years. We're going to make a silo flow for all 27 years. It's going to be deep enough to handle it all. When you opened it up in 1878, did you drop all the bags right by the door? And then when it came time to put the 1879s in, did you have to trip over them or crawl over them to get to the other side? Or did you do what 99% of the people in the world are going to do, which is open the barn, go to the back, and drop the bags back there? And if you did that all the way through to the last coin, 27th year, in 1904, there you have it. Then, if they pass an act that says we're destroying 60% of all the coins made, and they open the door, are they going to go to the back and grab the 1878s? Or are they going to grab the bags closest to the front and start loading those $1,000 bags into bins and onto the truck and get them out of here? Time to melt. Coins, bullion-wise, have to go overseas. Well, if you break it down, all the Morgans ever made, you kind of go 60%, you're somewhere in the middle 1880s. So, again, just trying to apply logic to a flow that we really don't know the answer to, except now we really do. Now, when I started into this industry, and many of you might have been collecting as long as I've been doing this, and that is when you're going on a coin hunt, I had my red book, my guidebook, that told me how many were made, what mints are the important ones, etc. But the memory of what coins were and were not available. If I'm going to a show and I'm going to find 10 coins, I know the 10 I'm going to find. But will I find one of these other coins, right? It's the ones I can't find. Well, when NGC and PCGS came into the industry, they provided us great information. The best. Because they document everything they see. And that's all great. But what does that mean? It means they're not seeing any 1890s. It means they're not seeing any 1891s compared to that of earlier Morgans. Now my competition, well, on the 1890, they're at 165. On the 1891, they're at 175. So we are close to $100 off on the one, and we are over $100 off on the other. One of the other fun things I like to look at in history is what was going on at this time in history. I mean, 130 years ago, what was going on? If you look at 1990, the Sherman Silver Purchase Act came out, which increased the number of silver dollars being bought by the government to make into the Morgan dollar. The states of Idaho and Wyoming were added to the nation. We're 44 now. The first ever Army-Navy football game was played in 1890. 1891, the Yellowstone Timberland Reserve, which is the first national forest ever. How about New York City Music Hall, later to be renamed the Carnegie Hall? First performance. Who was the conductor? The guest conductor was who? Tchaikovsky. Parts of history that are just so buried, except for those of us that have it bouncing around in our heads. Guys, 30-second clock, please. We're talking about beautiful uncirculated Morgans, everybody. 2 years that if you look at the mintages, you think you know the rest of the story, but if you listen to Paul Harvey at all, you know the rest of the story comes later on in the flow. The information from NGC and PCGS tell us what is and what isn't out there, and these are not out there. So the answer is what? Join us, considering they're the same price. Get the rarity, get the uncirculated condition, and save a bundle. That's the deal.